Today, one refers to a Carson as one would say, it's a Picasso, it's a Basquiat, it's a Matisse, it's a Warhol.
C'est un artiste qui a beaucoup de talent, qui maîtrise très bien les couleurs, qui maîtrise ses techniques et qui me rend heureux juste en regardant ses peintures.
Charles Carson is a Canadian artist. His prolific style is known not only in his home country, but around the world.
On est toujours content, on est toujours très fiers quand on voit des gens chez nous réussir sur la scène internationale et devenir de très grandes vedettes.
To be able to know such an artist during his lifetime is extremely rewarding, because we know for a fact that his work will shape our evolution and humanity.
Let's welcome Gala Academy's Artist of the Year, Charles Carson.
Picasso, Dali, Pollock sont tous des artistes peints de renommée internationale. Mais pourquoi regarder ailleurs?
Why look elsewhere when right here an avant-garde artist by the name of Charles Carson has already made his mark for several years?
We tried to find a way to honor him as one of Quebec's great painters.
Wow. This guy, he's seen Jackson Pollock, he's seen Sam Francis, but he's done things to these paintings that those geniuses didn't think of doing.
It's different from anything I've seen in my 50-year career. It's bright, it's warm, it's beautiful. It lights us up. Its colors are so vibrant.
He's someone who's going to rise to fame, so Canada should be proud of having such a renowned artist representing it outside the country. He's really a leader who distinguishes himself from younger generations by his reaction to Impressionism.
This triggered so much enthusiasm for the phenomenon of Carsonism that even today art experts, analysts and historians continue to study Carson's work.
Charles Carson considers Arabian Sunshine to be a permanent and endless source of inspiration for his works.
CTV In Touch.
The magazine's Top 40 Under 40 recognizes the work of Calgary's high achievers.
Has shaped Charles Carson to view life with such acuity and intensity that our vision of the world is embellished as a consequence.
The style of his paintings make it hard to grasp everything in a glance. I mean right away. The more you look at his work, the more enthusiastic you become.
You can put a Carson painting in the midst of 100 other paintings and it would stand out right away.
He's someone who belongs to the great school of contemporary art. For me, he's both a very great artist and a great friend.
His works give off so much energy that it's hard to take your eyes away.
Je suis Caroline BRUENS, expert conseil en marché de l'art, présidente de l'Académie internationale.
I am Caroline BRUENS, art marketing consultant and president of the Académie internationale des Beaux-Arts de Québec, founded by my husband, Louis BRUENS, who passed away recently. For more than 25 years, I have analyzed, studied, and witnessed the evolution of Charles Carson. The imagination and energy of this creator have never ceased to astound me. He has a remarkable vitality. I always say that Charles Carson is a true fighter. When we arrived at Cartagena Airport, we were astonished to see a Charles Carson mural right there in the airport, and in a nearby park there was a life-size statue of him. What a welcoming committee. It was quite unexpected and very gratifying for us. Today, I'm not at all surprised to see him rise to the great heights in the international modern and contemporary art markets, and to see him recognized with awards and prestigious titles throughout the past years. Major works have already made their mark in contemporary art history and have appeared on the cover of leading international journals and magazines. Charles Carson belongs to a great generation of artists who, to the delight of collectors, are able to reap the fruits of their creation during their own lifetime. In 2013, Charles Carson was honored as a Great Master of Fine Arts of the Académie Internationale des Beaux-Arts de Québec. Charles, I can only say, I salute you, great artist.
Mon nom est Louis Bruens. Je suis expert conseil et auteur de 15 livres d'art.
My name is Louis Bruens. I am an art consultant and have written 15 art books over my 50-year career. I am also president of the Académie Internationale des Beaux-Arts du Québec. I would like to tell you a story. More than 20 years ago, the artist Charles Carson showed me some of his latest paintings to get my opinion. What I saw were excellent works revealing a new trend, a personal signature worthy of attention. Later, I had the pleasure of observing the artist produce numerous great works. In fact, I told him he was ready to launch himself on the art market, and in 1990, I wrote an exhaustive analysis of his pictorial work. His development since that time has been absolutely stunning.
I'm a radiologist by profession, so my life has been surrounded by images. I love to look at images and see through images, and it's through images that I'm able to meet the artist. The same goes for wine. Not only is there also an image in wine, but there is also an image of the artist, the one who made the wine. And then the image of the wine and the taste of the wine are another dimension, like a taste for painting or a taste for music. It would take a long time to say everything about my passion for wine because it began, well, even during the 70s when I met Hôtel in France. And I met him because I loved what he was doing. So I already had a lot of love for painting, music, and many other things. For me, Hôtel was one of the most important people that I've ever met in my life because he was completely different from me, from all points of view. Obviously, I'm not a painter, except that I can see, and Hôtel had things to show me or teach me that I hardly knew. When I met Carson, I already knew him somewhat by his painting because I had gone to visit one of the galleries showing his work on St. Paul Street. And similarly, I was attracted by what he was doing. I had seen a diptych that was being exhibited there. I found it absolutely wonderful. And I asked the lady that was there, "Who is Carson?" I didn't recognize this guy, so I wanted to meet him. And when I met him, I liked the person, which for me is important. As I was associated with Hôtel here in the restaurant, Carson for me represented someone that I liked too. I really like getting to know people who paint what I like, and Carson is one of these painters. He's a nice man with lots of education, a good spirit, and well, I would go on vacation with him any time for a while. So if we could decide to go on vacation with someone, it means that we get along well. He comes here to the restaurant once in a while, and then we always have delightful evenings in a beautiful culture with a polite and cultivated man, a gentleman at that.
I think that what art brings in your life is the richness of life itself. And if you're creative yourself and you can appreciate what others are trying to communicate to you, well, it only makes your life a lot more interesting. I am motivated more by what the artists I know, the artists that are producing, the artists that are alive, that I can touch, that I can feel, that I can collect. I had the pleasure of meeting Charles Carson at one of my friends' bistro, at the bistro at Champlain, which is in St. Margaret. And everybody knows how this doctor discovered a great passion for wines and also a great passion for art. And I would say that that's what brought us together. Mr. Champlain happens to be also a friend, I believe. And that's how I met Charles. And not only I found his work exceptionally interesting, but again, I met him personally, and I found the person as interesting as his art. He was one of the few artists that I could communicate, for instance, some analogy of what was going on in the world at large.
The first time I saw him and I talked with him, I've known that person for 40, 50 years. I'm not that old, by the way. And it was like my brother sitting in front of me, and I could talk with him about anything. And it was just the first hour that we met. We just sit down and we talk, the complication of his life, the problem he went through, and how he got to his art, and what he's expressing through his art as well. And since I've been through the same thing and the determination I had, I could relate to him very easily how difficult it could be if you bring some, well, it depends. I mean, some people would think that if you bring some, what I call mortgage psychologically, it could be a bad thing, but I think that's what makes the strength and of the human being, because if you're a survivor, you will work through it, and he was able to work through it, obviously, and he was able to express it through his art, and that's what makes his art so vibrant and so. What I'm trying to say is express very well what he is inside. And of course, I knew I was not wrong, because he's very passionate. He's got that very intellectual way of doing things, and you can see it, that he has that sensitivity, he has that volatility, he has that humor, and I think he knows exactly what he wants, and I know he knows exactly how to express it as well when he paints what he wants to express.
Charles is a tough man. He is dedicated to his craft. Nothing will deter him from his mission in life. And a lot of people have skills, a lot of people have talents, a lot of people have gifts, but the trick in this life, the mission in our life, is to use these skills and these talents and these gifts to the best of our abilities. And if you're blessed with that and selling art, then you really hit it good. And to look at a painting like this, if you don't mind, I'd like to spend 2 seconds on this particular painting.
Of course.
This particular style is fascinating, and it's historic, because he's channeling Jackson Pollock and Sam Francis, but with his own version of it, which as an art historian, someone who really loves the continuation of the culture, which is what I love. That's what I love about it professionally. I love to be able to continue the culture down from a generation to the next generation. So young people can look at this and they can say, oh wow, this guy, he's seen Jackson Pollock, he's seen Sam Francis, but he's done things to these paintings that those geniuses didn't think of doing. So that's why Charles is making his mark and has made his mark. He can hold his own with a lot of these greats, and he's young. It's interesting. He's got a lot going for himself. A lot. He's in a good position to make a big artistic statement. He's already made a big artistic statement, but he's in a good position for something very big to happen.
On est situé dans nos bureaux de Montréal, la caisse d'administration des services
The
publics.
entrance hall right outside our office in the Deposits and Investments building is full of light, the perfect spot for a work of such quality.
Carson, on a eu l'idée de mettre en valeur son tableau.
We wanted to bring out the beauty of his painting as well as to pay tribute to him as a great Quebec artist, so we placed a short biography here.
Et au quotidien, nos membres qui se présentent ici ont
That way, our members who come here can savor this magnificent painting and also learn about the artist, Mr. Carson.
Bien, la première rencontre a été visuelle en termes d'œuvre.
The first meeting was an informal encounter. After that, I was told that he might be ready to tell his life story. Because he is a well-known painter with a lot of talent, it would be a good way for people to know him better. So I was given the task of writing it. It's that simple. I love any creative process. It is extremely rewarding both personally and professionally.
C'est ce qui nous gratifie le plus aussi sur le plan professionnel, quelque part. Et Charles avait beaucoup à me montrer à ce niveau-là.
Charles showed me a lot about his creative process, how he can create a picture of such sensitivity, such sensibility, that it really captures our emotions. It's a mystery to me. The mystery of creation is one of the most beautiful mysteries of life.
Je pense que c'est un des plus beaux mystères de la vie. Moi, j'ai eu la grande chance d'être témoin.
I was very lucky to have been able to witness a painting taking form right before my eyes. Observing his artistic process allowed us to communicate so that I could better understand. And he could put into words his gestures while creating his painting.
J'ai connu Charles Carson par accident. Alors, c'est quelqu'un qui m'a dit,
I met Charles Carson by accident. Someone said to me, I know an extraordinary artist. His work would be magnificent in your gallery. What do you think? Would you like to meet him? Since I was fairly new here, the art gallery had only been open for 8 months. I was always on the lookout for extraordinary artists. I'm always open, always curious about artists, so I said, of course, I'd love to meet him. Communications took place so rapidly that 2 weeks later we had already prepared an exhibition. The exhibition that should have taken place in Europe took place here. I absolutely fell in love with his paintings. And since he's extraordinarily rapid in business communications, everything went very fast from artist to artist.
La communication par les œuvres, comme je vous ai dit, j'étais en amour avec ses œuvres, donc ça s'est fait rapidement aussi. Et aussi la communication à faire.
I can say that Charles is a complete artist. He has all the assets of a businessman and all the gifts of an artist.
On peut pas être indifférent. On peut regarder son œuvre en être admiratif.
It's impossible to remain indifferent. When you admire his work, you're overpowered by his colors. There are so many that it's hard to take them all in one glance.
Du style de tableau qui fait de découvrir tout ce qu'il y a à découvrir en un clin d'œil, si vous voulez, en un premier.
You have to stand back to admire them, and the more you look, the more captivated you are. And when you get to know the man through his works, you're not disappointed. You're enthusiastic to discover that he is a very complete person, warm, communicative, extremely passionate about the arts.
Un grand passionné des arts.
Bonjour, je suis Béatrice Sheperteski.
Hello, I'm Beatrice Sheperteski. I am responsible for laboratory analyses and expertise in archaeology and works of art, better known as the Laboratoire LEA. Since 1993, we have been located in the Chartrons district, right in the heart of Bordeaux. Our job is to authenticate works of art, that is, to make a scientific study of a work of art. We analyze the material that defines the essence of an artist in order to thwart forgeries. We analyze the composition of the constituent materials of a work of art in order to discover the gestures, the experience, and the creativity of the artist. I believe that our work is very rewarding and that it's an opportunity because we get to meet great creators, great artists and beautiful works, which can sometimes be of very humble origin. This is the case, for example, of the first drawings in a decorated cave or the primitive writings of an ancient manuscript. But this can also be a brushstroke of a Leonardo da Vinci, or the touch of a Van Gogh, a Matisse, a Monet, or a Chagall. So many great creators, great artists, who in their own way helped shape our evolution and humanity. I like to say quite simply that the works of these great masters are also important and bring as much information as the equations of Albert Einstein. So you ask me, through all this, where does the work of Charles Carson stand? Well, again, we are very fortunate. To be able to know such an artist during his lifetime is extremely rewarding, because we know for a fact that his work will shape our evolution and humanity.
Hello, Charles. I have chosen this wonderful scenery of my Provence to speak to you of my friendship and admiration. The scenery that Edmond de Goncourt evoked, saying, "The sea is the most beautiful horizon in the world." These seas and these oceans, Charles, you paint their forms and fish so poetically, bringing to mind the poet Arthur Rimbaud, whom you quote at length in your latest book, and his individually colored vowels, A black, E white, I red, U green, O blue, vowels. This brings us back to our childhood, Charles. In the preface to your latest book, recounting your life as a man and an artist, I wrote, "Charles Carson has left his mark for artistic posterity, because today one refers to a Carson as one would say, it's a Picasso, it's a Basquiat, it's a Matisse, it's a Warhol, and all the other immortal great masters. Today, I just added the weight of Arthur Rimbaud." As for me, no matter how busy I am, whenever you call me, my dear friend, no matter the time difference, for you, it's daytime, whereas for me, it's nighttime because I work until 3 a.m. It's always a pleasure to discuss art with you, especially considering my activities in the art world, my role as an expert at customs courts, and as president of Drouot, Cotation des Artistes Modernes et Contemporains, and my involvement in the 10th edition of the Dictionnaire de Cotation des Artistes, the art reference and price guide. I have the pleasure of announcing to you that you have been named Artistic Advisor to the Drouot Cotation des Artistes Modernes et Contemporains for Canada.
One of the specialties of Quebec art is a group of famous homegrown painters whose works have become collector's items, renowned artists that you probably know, such as Montreal Fortin, Suzanne Côté, Jean-Paul Lemieux, Jean-Paul Riopel, Jean-Philippe Dallaire, René Richard, and of course Charles Carson. Our clientele is becoming more and more international. Art is a real passion, a passion that my wife and I share for the art gallery and these artists that innumerable art critics and specialists have heaped praise on Charles Carson's work. As for me, I'm absolutely certain that Charles Carson is among the great Canadian as well as international painters. Of course, we recommend him to our own clients as well as to clients of other galleries as an excellent acquisition from both a monetary and an aesthetic standpoint. I really love the mosaics because of their vivid colors, their transparency, and also their overall chromatic effect. They look like stained glass. Even though there's a certain recognizable figurative element, fish, wheat fields, they border on the abstract. But what an incredibly powerful impact they have. What most strikes us about Carsonism is not only his technique of applying several full-tone colors in one sweep of the palette knife, but the relief and vibrant quality of his colorful strokes. Flowers have flared shapes. Nothing is static, and the entire composition is a joy to the eye. His evocations of the ocean floor are more beautiful than reality. They're beautified in a creative way.
I have a passion for art that originated the day I bought my first Carson nearly 25 years ago. The passion I have for Carson's work has never diminished. Over the years, I've added to my collection of Carson paintings, and I've closely followed his meteoric rise on the international stage. I've become an impassioned fan of his work, and it was therefore without a moment's hesitation that I accepted the offer to become his agent for Western Canada. There is something in a Carson painting that moves me in a way no other living artist is able to do. The vivacity and juxtaposition of the colors, the depth of the forms and figures that reveal their secrets little by little, even after many years and countless viewings. How can I best describe this mysterious and unique aspect of Carsonism? I would not be so presumptuous as to attempt an analysis of Carson's unique pictorial writing that sets him apart from others. Instead, I will attempt to describe how the artist's work touches me on an emotional level that never decreases in intensity. Since having moved to Calgary, I live in hope of one day entering a gallery and finding the painting that makes me feel the way I feel when I revel in the beautiful setting of the Rockies. There are a handful of gifted artists who have succeeded in capturing the beauty of these mountains, but none have made me feel the immensity of their power, the way I do when I contemplate an underwater scene or an autumn setting as depicted by Carson's brush. Carson has mastered his art, quite simply because he has managed, as few contemporary artists before him, to capture and portray his vision of beauty with a rare sensitivity. His ability to be moved by simple things, often unnoticeable to others, has shaped Charles Carson to view life with such acuity and intensity that our vision of the world is embellished as a consequence.
Es mi deseo dejar constancia para que la sociedad toda se entere.
I would like to point out that the Arseneau Piste Gallery is the oldest art gallery in the country, having been in business for 42 years.
Está situada en la ciudad de Medellín.
It is located in Medellín, Colombia, a highly industrialized city and also an important cultural center.
En el historial
We have a history of presenting many exhibitions displaying the best artists in the country, as well as international artists. For 42 years, all our famous artists, our country's ambassadors of creativity, some of whom have unfortunately passed away, belonged to our organization. When Charles Carson lived in Cartagena, someone told me about him, and I was extremely fortunate to have had the opportunity to invite him to the gallery. I didn't know him very well back then, but my expectations were not let down when I discovered his work. Therefore, I organized a solo exhibition which was unbelievably successful. This triggered so much enthusiasm for the phenomenon of Carsonism that even today, experts, analysts, and art historians continue to study Carson's work. When you first look at them, his paintings seem to be abstract works. As you continue to contemplate them, you discover several layers of information with infinitely delicate details, and the works become totally figurative. Specialists greatly appreciate the importance of Carsonism, especially his underwater seascapes. Charles Carson's secret lies in his love and passion for art, as well as his professionalism. He is a creator who is constantly exploring and evolving. All the experimental work he has produced in his studio and his laboratory in the past few years is absolutely stunning.
It was in Paris, in March 2007, that Charles was honored as a great master of contemporary art because of his exceptional talent. On that occasion, the exhibition hall was filled to capacity by throngs of people, especially during the presentation of the European Academy of Arts Gold Medal. It was so exciting. His splendid mosaics were on display, radiating their energy, their dazzling colors and luminous transparencies. I happily purchased several works for my private collection. I was so taken by his paintings, fascinated by the energy of their colors, that I couldn't stop looking at them. This is how I came to accompany him to New York for the Art Expo exhibition in 2009. It was wonderful to see all the art aficionados, the specialists, professionals and painters, artists and representatives from all over the world savoring his work, his magnificent paintings. In fact, my admiration comes straight from the heart. He is a fascinating, passionate artist. His works give off so much energy that it's hard to take your eyes away. It's impossible to explain. I don't know why, but this artist really moves me. He's magnificent. Charles is a wonderful man to whom I can only say one thing: bravo to a true artist.
Well, we've been publishing for 34 years, and we've evolved into the fine art format.
Hi.
And we were originally a little more diverse.
This is the magazine, actually, that you published for this month.
Yes, and we feature Charles on the cover.
Okay.
And we think it's a great magazine, and we enjoyed the interview with Charles greatly.
We know you never put an artist on the front cover.
I saw the paintings, and I saw that they had a unique language.
Okay.
It was difficult to discern the abstracts originally. Now I understand them very well. But the language of the impressionistic pieces with the dreamscape, I felt it was very unique, and I felt the color and the color usage and the balance was...
When you talk to me about that balance, and if you refer to a piece like this...
Yes, the painting has... The work of the florals, you're really invited into the space. You're invited to taste this is an orange, you're invited to taste it, but you're part of the process of whatever this moment is that the artist is describing. Now, it's not a snapshot, so you're invited into the imagination of the process.
Okay.
And somewhere there's been an instigation or an inspiration through like a mystique. And involving the colors in the description of the mystique. The line is defined in this painting, but frequently it's married through the colors. The application of the form is married through the colors defining the line. The painting itself, the composition isn't as important, and therefore the composition becomes very free, very available for people to enter into.
I do understand that any artist in sculpture, in painting, or vocal, instrumentalist, you have to have technique installed, and then from the technique, your soul take over. And then from there, from that point on, this is what if you're going to make a mark on people's, if it arouses something inside of you, that means this is the kind of artist that already reached a place. And you should be able to study that artist and appreciate even more the work that they put into it. Because to become, after you bypass the technique and you install your own vision of what it should be or how you feel, then that's what makes you special. If you cannot bypass the technique without expressing your soul, because you have to master first and then you put your soul into it. And that's what makes the mark of a great artist. And I think Charles came into my vision that way.
Un espressionismo informale, dicevamo, di Carson, che sicuramente è leader nel genere di pittura.
One could say that Charles Carson practices informal impressionism. He's really a leader who distinguishes himself from younger generations by his reaction to impressionism. An artist who has gained international status because of his distinctive style. Carson is a painter whose works could be classed as formal art, but whose pictorial grammar leans towards informal art, expressing a mystical universe which combines several tendencies. It's a great pleasure to give international recognition to this artist for the high quality of his paintings.
Un alto riconoscimento a livello internazionale a tutti quei pittori che hanno saputo comunque costruire una qualità pittorica di indiscusso valore.
J'ai découvert son œuvre déjà en 2008 au Québec.
I discovered his work in 2008 during a wine tasting event in Quebec. I noticed the several paintings on the walls that really drew my attention. I love art, but usually older paintings with precise details. However, when I discovered Charles' paintings, I fell in love with his work. The following year I met the artist again, but this time we shared a pizza in a restaurant. We stayed there until the place closed and had a wonderful time. I was so in love with his work that I bought one of his paintings. Charles is the kind of man that I really admire. One who's very simple, yet extremely professional, who's exacting, discreet, devoted to his work. When you meet him, you encounter a true artist whose paintings are all at once detailed, colorful, and cheerful, something that appeals to a wide public. It's really the bright, cheerful colors that attract me. The old Côte de Nuit is a white wine, a very, very good white wine, a Chardonnay, which is a bit like his paintings, so easy to enjoy.
C'est un vin blanc, un très très bon vin blanc, un chardonnay, qui est un peu comme sa peinture. Pour moi, c'était quelque chose qui s'assimilait très facilement.
À travers le monde, maintenant, il est reconnu. Donc, c'est pour ça que ses œuvres ont pris de la valeur aussi rapidement. Il était connu.
He's known throughout the world now, which is why his works have increased in value so rapidly. He was extremely well known in Colombia, but less known here. For the past 10 years, the works he's done have been phenomenal, and his reputation has been growing steadily throughout the world. Charles is someone who works very hard on his career, not just on his paintings, but on his career. This is why his paintings have increased in value, and why he's recognized by artists of his caliber, by great collectors, and by renowned artists such as Hôtel, who admired the high quality of his work. His clients are fully aware of this. The work of Charles Carson distinguishes itself by pursuing diversity while maintaining a constant level of excellence, and to think that he is not even halfway through his career.
Je pense qu'il n'est pas à mi-chemin encore de sa carrière.
Il y a une chose, c'est que cette œuvre d'art-là, pour moi, c'est une source d'énergie.
This work of art is a source of energy for me, because every time I go by it, I can feel the heat it sends off and the energy of the colors. I think it's really important for us and for our members, and people really appreciate that. You know, even after 4 years, you never get tired of looking at this magnificent painting. It's still as dazzling, as full of heat and energy, as at first sight.
Bien que je connais M. Carson, surtout sur le plan professionnel, en tant que membre.
I know Charles Carson professionally as a member of this bank. Mr. Carson is passionate and shares his passion on a daily basis in conversations with me and even with other clients. I really hope that a lot of people are able to discover him so they can share his passion.
Je voulais simplement raconter la façon dont nous avons connu Charles Carson.
I just wanted to tell you about how I met Charles Carson, because it's a rather amusing story. When he arrived at our house, we didn't know him at all, and we ended up keeping him as a guest for 3 weeks because his agent was unexpectedly held up by family problems. That's how we discovered Charles Carson as a person, his wonderful human qualities, even before we discovered his artwork.
Charles Carson, ses qualités humaines, avant même de connaître sa peinture. Et ensuite, ça a été la révélation dans la mesure où nous avons connu sa peinture.
When we were later introduced to his paintings, they were a revelation. We found them simply extraordinary. His painting is nature. It's life. It's color. It's everything you can imagine for someone who loves art, of course, which is our case. Charles Carson is the one who led us to discover a special world, the world of contemporary art.
His Carsonism is gaining a worldwide reputation and is recognized by many art experts. So, if you ask me about young artists whose reputations are growing internationally, Charles Carson is one of them.
Es uno de ellos. Es un hombre todavía joven en donde su apasionamiento, su dedicación, su seriedad.
He is still a young man whose energy and passionate devotion to his art, along with his strong sense of professionalism, have propelled him to one of the highest levels of universal culture. His works are now sold at some of the top auction houses in Europe and North America. Lest even the heirs of our descendants forget, let me say that Charles Carson is one of the great artists for whom large exhibitions have been held in the history of the Arte Autopista Gallery.
Almanaque importante de exposiciones de la Galería Arte Autopista hechas por él.
Because of his reputation in South America, and especially in the Republic of Colombia, this wonderful country, which is such a beautiful place to visit.
Todos los que tengamos conocimiento sobre él.
Mi nombre es Marco Mejía, soy artista colombiano, vivo en Medellín.
My name is Marco Mejia. I'm a Colombian artist and I live in the city of Medellin. I met the Canadian artist Charles Carson in Cartagena and I was really impressed by the energy of his exuberant and exotic colors. Very much inspired by the tropics, the sea, and the people who live along the coast of Colombia. He's an excellent artist with a widespread reputation. He's someone who belongs to the great school of contemporary art. He loves Colombia, its regions, and its people. For me, he's both a very great artist and a great friend.
It is simply impossible to ignore an artist who has probed new artistic values in a way that challenges the trends, genres, or styles that dominate today's mainstream contemporary art market. Charles Carson has the ability to imagine, interpret, and transpose his unique vision of the world around him with both strength and subtlety. Today, Carson has gained recognition at the international level and become known among art historians and consultants for his unique style. He is considered by critics to be one of the great contemporary artists, having learned the pictorial language once spoken by Jean-Paul Riopelle, Jackson Pollock, Sam Francis, and Wassily Kandinsky. And he has forged forward, translating and updating this style in wholly original ways these earlier geniuses never even imagined.
Alors, pour ce qui est de Carson, Champlain-Charest a eu un coup de foudre.
When Champlain Charest saw Carson's work, it was love at first sight. He told me that his work inspired a kind of inner vision, a sudden revelation. He saw paintings that really struck an emotional chord, so he decided to go ahead and acquire one, because he is a great fan of Charles's work. He has to love a work, because he said that he would never buy a painting if he wasn't in love with it. And this is exactly how he felt about Carson's work. I have often seen people who know nothing about art react in the same way when they look at Carson's paintings. What really moved me was the river, the Rivière du Nord, because his house is located right on the riverbank. Every time he spoke to me, his eyes wandered back to the river. He always said to me that the river kept flowing on and on and on, that nothing could stop it. Which is also true of an artist. This irrepressible movement of wanting to create, of wanting to act in a work. I choose to tell you this personal anecdote, among others, because when we visited his childhood haunts, I witnessed how moved he was, revealing that he still has that child within him.
Charles Carson est un très grand créateur.
Charles Carson is a great creator. His work is inimitable, personal, spontaneous. I don't know of any other work that resembles his. It is halfway between abstract and figurative art. It is not part of any movement or trend. His work is a superposition of materials, of shapes, colors, drawings that create a world of its own that is visually very rich, so rich that it even creates a world of sound. To be copied is the fate of great artists, and Charles Carson will not escape this. His work is extremely unique, and we know from experience that it is very complex to copy his work. But it is also what defines the quality of a great artist. In this case, a great Canadian artist.
En l'occurrence, un grand artiste canadien.
Je connais Charles depuis un certain nombre d'années.
I've known Charles for a number of years, and I consider him to be a very open, friendly, straightforward person. He's highly sensitive and really gives the impression of someone whose work in his paintings is a reflection of the inner workings of his emotions.
You wrote about Carson and mentioning Carson such a Kandinsky, Modern, Pollock, Picasso,
Yes,
Van Gogh.
Yeah.
And why with Carson?
Oh, why?
Yeah.
Oh, because he has the colors are incredibly clean. There's a tempo. It really, it's not just about, you can't just paint and you can't extrapolate unless you know form. You have to know form. You have to be able to paint in order to extrapolate. So he applies the paint with a tempo and with a sense of color as if the light were coming through. This piece is very energetic and it's almost kinetic in its energy, but it has a form. There's a definite form lent through the application of the color. I don't know what Mr. Carson has in his mentality as he paints, but he's obviously painting. It looks to me like the subconscious vision of what he sees. It looks to me like he steps into this space, between space, and starts to paint the colors as they vibrate. As one form transitions from dream to reality, from reality to dream, and the abstract in between. Looks to me like he steps into that space. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, definitely. Definitely.
That's what it appears to me.
And you still wanted to keep the transparency.
Well, the colors are incredibly clean.
Yes, yes. His
Which
technique.
is rare.
Yeah, because of his technique.
Yeah, and they're built and they have definition and they're textural. There's a certain texture lent to the piece that is very difficult to arrive at. You would think it's simple. It's not simple. It's very complex, very difficult to arrive at. And then you have to have a real understanding of harmony and tempo in order to get the colors to have a significant balance throughout the piece and create composition.
And this has inspired you for you to place Mr.
I
Carson on your cover.
Well, it inspired
magazine.
me. I understood I would have something to write about. I understood that the quality of what was necessary for us to make the next step. Every time you do something with somebody, you're in union. So if you're in union, people have to, it's a synergy. Everybody has to succeed together. So if the art isn't there, I can't succeed for people alone, and it's a mistake. If the art is there, then we succeed together. And we succeed to the next place. So I said, okay, we will now succeed. The artistic statement is there. Okay. And then we spent time researching, speaking, reflecting, understanding, and then we began to write about the art.
It's always very difficult once you tie yourself a friendship, to an artist, to really and truly promote or try to talk about his work. He's such a great talent for doing things very differently that everyone who's interested in paintings and in art, by just looking at his work, will realize the ability and his great artistic endeavor.
Di origini canadese, operante in quella terra, soprattutto nella provincia del Québec.
He is a Canadian painter who works in Quebec. However, he is really of international stature.
Dalle atmosfere marine.
His style allows him to depict a wide range of environments, ranging from underwater seascapes to scenes of daily life.
Riguarda i lavori che il maestro Charles Carson realizza con I mosaici.
Master Carson also creates mosaics composed of dollops of sculpted paint.
Di tessere colorate che nell'insieme riescono a
building colorful textures which create a feeling of love, even more, of confidence and optimism about the subject.
Soprattutto di fiducia verso l'essere umano, di ottimismo verso la società.
My name is Laura Marbeau. I'm the scientific expert in Bordeaux at the Laboratory of Analysis and Expertise for Archaeology and Works of Art. From the beginning, I discovered the paintings of Charles Carson through the eyes of my uncle, Bernard Grelier, who is, in fact, a great lover of art, a collector, and more importantly, a close friend of Charles Carson. So he was the one who introduced me to the artist's paintings. Well, I was immediately struck by an entirely unique touch, and undoubtedly professional bias played a role, but I was struck by the beauty of the material itself, because in the laboratory where we work, well, the material is actually the core of our investigations of expertise in pigment analyses. And I think that in the end, well, Charles Carson's talent lies in this ability to masterfully dramatize the subject in colors. And so I would love to discover new paintings by Charles Carson during one of his next visits to Bordeaux.
Pour terminer, j'aimerais définir l'œuvre de Charles Carson. Je vous dirais que, par exemple, quelqu'un qui possède une œuvre de Charles Carson, qu'est-ce que ça peut apporter?
I would like to tell the people who own a Carson painting what it could bring them. The source of joy, of happiness, of color. Even children love his paintings. They marvel at all the colors. Charles has a palette that brings us joy every morning. I have one in my bedroom and I couldn't do without it. This wonderful mosaic of colors brightens the rest of my day. My clients tell me the same thing. Collectors praise the quality of his paintings. Others tell me about the happiness they bring. You just can't lose because even after 20 years, you'll still love his paintings. Also, it's astonishing to see how fast his paintings are selling and how fast his reputation is spreading internationally. So acquiring one of his works is really a good long-term investment which has rapidly been increasing in value over the past 10 years.
C'est une peinture en même temps qui est intime, parce que chacun peut faire son image, peut faire ses images.
So that's why it's a painting that, at the same time, is intimate, because each one of us can make our own image or images.
Très différent de ce qui est les mosaïques, qui sont réellement des éclats de peinture qui sont beaucoup.
And for me, it's a painting that truly reflects nature.
Dans le carsonisme, c'est un peu plus concret, à mon point de vue, que
Carsonism is a bit more concrete, from my point of view, than the mosaic. That is to say, he made the marine background, he made the animals in the water. For me, when I look at these slanted strokes across his paintings, I see snowstorms and rainstorms and other storms, that I find them very well presented through the many colors that were so well chosen.
Dans le tableau, à travers de nombreuses couleurs qui sont très bien choisies. C'est complètement différent.
To me, Carsonism and the mosaic are completely different. Which do I prefer? Even though I think that I prefer, I'll buy them both. I buy mosaics for the light, the clarity, and the quality, and so on. And I buy Carsonism to see from the bottom of the sea what is happening, because Charles is suddenly a man who did a lot of underwater diving, and it's a pleasure to see the colors from the bottom of the sea.
C'était vraiment un coup de cœur, mais c'est très particulier sa peinture. Je pense qu'elle restera, c'est quelque chose qui va traverser les temps. C'est vraiment très très particulier. D'ailleurs, à chaque fois que j'en parle avec des clients ou des amis, et quand je leur montre ce tableau, ça n'a jamais laissé personne indifférent. Souvent, on passe devant une peinture sans rien voir, et là, c'est vraiment fantastique.
Charles has a great drive and a great capacity, enthusiasm for the art, and it was just the level of the energy I felt that would carry the artistic statement through. In retrospect, I think that the colors work very well for the statement, that the statement becomes alive, and people understand it when they see it. If you can't let people know immediately through a visual what is that piece of the alphabet, what is that piece of the dream, that metaphor that you're describing, then you lose them.
Yes.
If you do it instantly, you have them. So it has to be there. And at this point, after 34 years, I know if it's there, if it's not there.
After all those years, what still inspires you?
Oh, this is like a food for me.
Okay.
No, this is like if I finish, if I enjoy, like I enjoyed writing this, I really enjoyed it. So when I'm finished with it, it's incredibly satisfying. It's food. I feel something has been accomplished.
Yes.
It's. Can you imagine what it would be like if people didn't have art? Can you imagine what it would be like if Mr. Carson wasn't free to describe his experience and offer to people his experience through art and let people join it? It would be a terrible place.
Because you wrote your title, Carson to the Is.
Well, in the material that I had read, it was about Charles forming. Because it was unlike other material, it was a school of thought that he was founding. Okay, and everything is Impressionism, Post-Impressionism, Expressionism. So this is Carsonism, Carson to the ism. And there are elements of this work that I have not seen elsewhere. I have not seen this technique done elsewhere. Have you?
No. No.
So.
He's the only one in the world who's doing this technique.
He's doing this technique,
yes. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I feel he's the only one doing this also.
Exactly, too.
You know,
yeah.
And we've both been to some shows. You've been to FIAC, you've been to...
Yeah, his mosaic style, this way is the only one.
Yeah. And isn't this the founding of a thought process or a school? Did anybody do... Well, Picasso borrowed from everybody, but did anybody do Braque or Leger or, you know... Did anybody do Pollock before they did themselves? And that's the ism, I guess.
Well, thank you.
Long life to you. Bravo, Charles. Vive le Carsonisme.
Que ce soit en Amérique du Nord, en Amérique du Sud.
Be it in North America, South America, or Europe, specialists, art historians, experts, analysts, and gallery owners have acclaimed his work. Guy Robert, the founder of the Montreal Museum of Contemporary Art, and Jacques de Roussin, an art historian and writer, both deceased, shared my opinion. We realized we were in the presence of a rare talent. Today, I can see that my predictions were right on target. His style of painting, or should I say movement, his unique technique has created a school. Charles Carson's paintings glimmer with a vibrant, resonant luminosity, and he is recognized internationally for his creativity. The colony of visual artists in Quebec is very rich, and many artists stand out, but there are some who go even further, and Charles Carson is one of them.
Et Charles Carson est un de ceux-là. En conclusion, la raison du succès de Charles
The quality of his art has propelled him to success.
La qualité de son art.